knowing what you know from growing up in China and then seeing what you see right now in America, what are some warning signs? What is it that American citizens need to be aware of right now?
Just this slowly of the critical race theory seeping into everywhere, from local schools, public schools, up to college, up to everywhere, part in the local government. Everybody's talking about this racial division. If one day we agree that's a problem, we solve that problem, there can be another problem can be created. That's the danger about it. It's a manufactured problem.
Hey everybody, welcome to Our Watch. I am Tim Thompson, and we've got a very important topic to discuss today. Critical race theory is all over America at this point. This is a problem for our communities, and it's a problem for our nation, and it's something that we need to address. To do so, we brought in Dr. Yuan Hawkes. Dr. Yuan, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
We look at what just took place here in our country. It is a travesty to the hardworking students across our nation. This was a little clip from what Fox News had just put out. We're going to take a listen to this and then get your take on it.
Virginia's Attorney General is vowing to investigate after at least 13 schools across 3 different districts withheld merit awards from the top students in the name of equity. Governor Youngkin slamming the districts, saying, quote, they have a maniacal focus on equal outcomes for all students at all costs.
All right, so Dr. Yuan Hawkes, glad to have you here today. We heard that, what Governor Youngkin just said. And the reason I asked you on the program today is because you come from communist China. You're here in America. You're a doctor. You've worked hard to earn that title, and you understand the value of working hard and achieving a goal. And yet, so many students have now been robbed of what they should be getting, the result of their hard work. They've been robbed. You've got a lot to say about that. What do you think about what's going on here?
It is outrageous. On so many different levels. I can give you 3. First, the students were withheld the scholarship because the school district decided that other students, their feelings might get hurt. So you're single out one group of students who earned the award to the rest of the student group. So you're causing a problem right there.
I appreciate what you're saying. They're causing a problem. So it's a problem that didn't exist. It's a problem they made. Yes. They manufactured this problem. Yes. And you coming from communist China, you know what it's like to have a government manufacturing problems.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Like COVID lockdown, they used that. See, now the rest of the world is open and China is still struggling with that, even though they drastically lifted the COVID lockdown. Recently, people were scared to go out. Now there is no lockdown because of fear is there, and that one of the greatest tools for communist party is to use fear to control people.
Right.
All this critical race theory, it's a tool. The ultimate goal is to control people and take away freedom.
We were talking earlier about what took place in China, and it's definitely different than America because in America we have what's known as a melting pot, right? We've got you're people from many shades of color, right? Mm-hmm. All over America, and it's one of the things that makes America so wonderful. And we could celebrate different cultures, enjoy so many varieties of music and foods and ways of living, and it makes America incredible. In China, they couldn't really do that. Explain why they couldn't mix people up based on race.
Because we're one race, the majority is Han, like myself, Han race. We're over 90%. The minority group, like Tibet, is a very small group, so you can't really create this racial tension like here. Instead, they're creating these class attention. You have the oppressor, the one who have, and the oppressed who don't have. So it used to be the intellectuals, the educated, versus the workers, the peasants, who are the oppressed. So you can create that kind of attention.
Right. So the whole idea is create some sort of division amongst the people. We know this from the Word of God that a house divided against itself cannot stand. So if you want to take over a country, what do? You divide the people. You come to America, couldn't divide us, on the oppressed and oppressor as far as the haves and the have-nots. Why? Because we have this beautiful thing called a middle class. So when anybody of any skin color could make their way here, capitalize on opportunity, and become rich and wealthy, you can't really divide people up on the haves and have-nots. So you have to find another way, and they've done so with race. Now you've got critical race theory, a tool of Marxist, a tool of communism, to try to divide up our nation. And they're pushing for this word they call equity, which is equality of outcome. And it doesn't care about equality because it should be an equal playing field to where anybody who's willing to work hard can achieve a goal. So you see what took place there. Tell us more. You have great insight into what's going on there. What are some other things you see about what's happening in our school system?
This also created laziness, and it's not encouraging students to work hard to achieve, because why would a student want to work hard when there is no reward? Regardless of somebody work hard or not work hard, they're going to get the same result, like you said, equity. Well, equality is one of the greatest principles this country is founded on. Because of the equality, people came from all over the world, include myself, to pursue a dream that I could not achieve in a country like China. So that is the big difference. Equality and equity cannot be mixed together. They try to downgrade equality to equity.
Right. Yeah, I love that you put it that way. You downgrade equality to equity. Having a fair outcome for everybody does exactly what you're saying. It produces laziness, a lack of desire to achieve goals, and that is exactly what you see pushed in that whenever there's critical race theory being used in schools, whenever they're pushing for equity, we're going to end up with lazy people. Now, somebody set up rules and somebody didn't follow them. That's something that you've seen in communist China. Talk to us about that.
The rules, for example, when I was growing up, we were told you can work hard and you can achieve. But in reality is Chinese like to study hard. And I studied hard in school. I was graduated top of the class, and I got a scholarship to come here. But if I didn't come here, I wouldn't end up having a good job because my parents have no connections. So studying hard is not the only way, or is not the way to achieve for yourself. You have to have connections. And then again, they are not the elite, are not playing by the rules. There are students, they don't study hard, but they belong to that elite class. They don't need to. They already have a job that's guaranteed for them after they graduate. So that's equity versus coming here, you have the opportunity to do something about yourself.
Right. So when you see what the teachers just did, you see the administrators, you see, the school officials, what you're seeing is something you've seen before in communist China is people who aren't abiding by the rules, right?
Yes. They created these rules for students to apply for a scholarship, but they thought themselves above the rules. That's very dangerous. If this is a law, this is the rules, then everybody should abide, and you're not above the law.
So knowing what you know from growing up in China and then seeing what you see right now in America, what are some warning signs? What is it that American citizens need to be aware of right now?
Just this slowly of the critical race theory seeping into everywhere, from local schools, public schools, up to college, up to everywhere, part in the local government. Everybody's talking about this racial division. If one day we agree that's a problem, we solve that problem, there can be another problem can be created. That's the danger about it. It's a manufactured problem.
Right. And we're seeing all sorts of manufactured problems. You already mentioned the COVID stuff that was going around. People can argue all they want, but the fact is we know a lot of that was manufactured problems. You look at for a while there was a manufactured distribution problem. Then there was a manufactured beef problem. Now we're talking about a manufactured egg shortage. I mean, these things are manufactured. And a need to get rid of our gas ovens and gas heaters. These are all nobody had a problem with that before. Now all of a sudden there's a problem. They're manufacturing the problems and instilling fear in people. And it's like you said, when you can get people to be afraid, then you can control them.
Yes.
And we as Christians have to know that God has not given us a spirit of fear, right?
Yes.
Right. So we need to not live in fear.
Yes. That's why I think in China you have a few elite can control 1.4 billion people. How do they do that? Fear. Once you instill that fear and really people believe it in their mind and they take it in their heart, then you got it. You can control them. And they are going to willingly put on a mask to go out.
Right. So, Dr. Hawkes, you're a Christian woman. You see the Christian church in China and what they're going through. Can you talk about that just a little bit?
That's that discrepancy. When I was in school, we were taught communist from elementary school all the way to college. It's
so
mandatory.
There was no God in school.
No. And then I saw the discrepancy as a little child. What we were taught is different than what I observed in life around me. We were taught you can freely worship, but then these days the churches, you cannot. They have to hide in homes, underground church. Those are not government church. For a government church, you have to have the cross in the middle and a picture of Mao on one side and picture of Xi, the current president, on the other side. So the party is above God. That's not right. So I see the freedom to protest. That's what we were taught. But then you cannot protest without consequence.
Right.
And they will not allow that. So many discrepancies in China, and it's sounded really good, the communism, when they preach it to you, but then in reality, that's not the case.
Yeah. So there's a lot of warning signs going on right now. Do you see America headed in the same direction?
Dangerously.
Yes,
if we don't do anything to stop that. If they can have this next generation that's still growing up in elementary school, in middle school, high school, if they can instill that into them, then we can turn the other direction, because then they will believe that, just like what happened in China.
Right. You know, when COVID first happened, I remember, because I've done a lot of missionary work in China, and I remember seeing people with masks, because this was back when SARS was a big thing in China, and I saw everybody in masks, and I didn't have one on, and I just remember almost everybody around me was walking around with a mask, and when they first said, "Hey, masks in America," I thought, "There's no way, this isn't China," and then I walked around, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, look how many people are given in." And it really surprised me to know that America could slip that far that fast. And with this next generation being taught in school that socialism is good, that somehow that's where we need to head. What they don't understand is socialism becomes communism.
Yes.
And it hasn't worked anywhere in the world.
No. And it's not good. And that's eventually going to take away our freedom. And people came from all over the world to America for freedom. And if we don't have freedom here, where do we go?
Right. Well, that means we have to stand for freedom. We need to fight for freedom. We need to do everything we can to hang on to what we have in America. What if you could just give one final point to our audience today? What one practical thing, the most important thing in your mind, what should they do to hang on to the freedom that they have?
To teach their children and their grandchildren that equity is different than equality. Work hard when you have the opportunity presented to you, and do the best you can, but don't believe in that lies when you have a problem, it's not look at my skin color, look at these other things that you can find an excuse to blame. Instead, okay, did you work hard on it? Why you're having problem? Why are you not getting the award when other kids are getting the award? Even that happened to my kids when they were in elementary school. Before I would get an email to the whole class, all these kids getting award, please come to the ceremony. Last maybe 3 years ago, the email is only sent to the parents, like a blind CC. I asked the teacher, why not send to the whole class? Oh, some other students, their feelings might get hurt that they didn't get it. Or the parents are going to ask why their kids are not getting the award. So that's already creepy. That was 3-4 years ago.
Yeah. No, and it's just getting worse. It's that everybody gets a trophy generation is now having kids. So I appreciate what you have to say. Work hard, capitalize on opportunity, and fight for what you've got. So thank you, Dr. Yuan Hawkes. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope you'll come back on the show.
Thank you, Pastor.